We're excited to have this conversation, which is one that personally I find important, feeding the world and doing so from the African continent and primarily from our little corner here in Accra, Ghana. We have a few perspectives on how this will go, and I'm glad to be joined by one of my really good friends and someone I've been excited to join over the last 4 years to see their journey and their growth, and to also have Peter, who has been part of that journey over the last few years. So we are waiting for Desmond to join us, but as we wait for Desmond to join us, Peter, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Life's good. We are healthy, and we get the opportunity to have some of these conversations. We can't ask for more, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, and here's the man of the hour, Desmond, finally. So yeah, before you came on, I was asking Peter how things are. For you, I know there's a product launch coming up on Saturday. How are the nerves going?
So it's going really well. Everyone is stressed out, as you can imagine. But I think it's coming along well. I can't wait to be done with the product launch and hopefully serve to the world what we've been building for the past weeks. It's quite exciting, but it's kind of the thing that you want perfection, knowing that that's going to be difficult to achieve. But I think we are trying. So
we can always try and hope for the best outcome. I would ask that we can always try. That's the best we can hope for. So hopefully it works out. I would ask that if you are not speaking, you mute yourself so that the sound quality is better. I think there's some static from one of us. I'm not sure it is, but yeah. So I'm sure we'll have a bit more to say about the product launch and what we can all expect towards the end of this conversation. But kicking right into gear, taking into cognizance the time, I wanted to just set the tone for why you two are best placed for this conversation, and also give a background to those that are just joining us shortly. So Desmond and Peter lead a company that I've been truly blessed to be a part of their journey over the last 2.5 years. Most recently as a venture partner for Ingressive, joining their round, and before that, being a really close confidant and friend of Desmond as he's been on this journey. Some really tough times up until this point, and to see his pure grit to get to this point, it's a truly exciting moment. So primarily the reason Complete Pharma is best placed to have this conversation with us today is because they truly believe that technology has, both for users like the general population and in the production system itself, can play a really key part in fixing inefficiencies and be able to also create better production value across Africa. And so today, as we are saying, we are matching two things that have become very central to human existence: technology and food. And how can we bring those two together in a way that advances better production? And more so on the African continent, whether there's a true opportunity to shape things from here with original thinking that could actually affect the rest of the world. And I'm truly excited by the work that Complete Pharma has done up until this point. And I want to give Desmond 2 minutes to give us the big idea of what Complete Pharma has been working on, and how that relates to this conversation we are having today. So Desmond, 2 minutes. What have you guys been working on, and what's the connection to this?
So I 2 minutes is quite of a challenge, but let me try. Basically, what we've been doing is to make sure the food value chain in Africa is decentralized using technology, like you said. And what that basically means is we are building a platform where buyers of food commodities anywhere in the world can literally build their supply chain to sourcing that food from farmers directly in Africa. Whilst doing this, we are also making it possible for anyone anywhere in the world to become a farmer as well and leverage on technology to farm digitally. Digital farming, I think, has been something that has been made possible now because of the various technologies. So, what we are doing at Complete Farmer is to put together all these technologies from blockchain technology, satellite imagery, technologies, and machine learning and data to make sure that food is available to anyone and anyone anywhere at all can become a farmer on this platform. So whilst doing this, we've engaged with farmers on the ground and tried to streamline the process for these farmers to enable this. So literally on the platform, someone like you will, you are able to grow food and sell to a buyer on the platform. So you can sell your digital farm produce to real buyers on the platform. So say Starbucks wants coffee beans, you should be able to grow these coffee beans for Starbucks and Starbucks pays you for your coffee beans. So that's what we've been building here. It's literally like Farmville in real life. So for
Exactly.
those like Farmville, basically we are building the real life version of that.
Exactly. Thanks for the overview. So, talking about primarily one of the big things there is decentralizing production in a way that multiple players can be involved in the whole process, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
democratizing the opportunity for more players to be involved in the value chain in a
Yeah,
way that takes power probably away from consolidated organizations or big companies and kind of take hold of our food systems, which is a security risk essentially. So a big part of the work I see, if it evolves the way we've talked about it in the past, is that more people can actually decide what gets grown because they
exactly.
use their money to make a vote into what they believe the future should be focused on.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that's the idea. Do you see it as something that could potentially have a big impact on the broader agricultural value chain in Africa?
Yeah, I think once people get involved, we are able to determine the type of foods that we get on our plates. But not just that. And for the big industries that we target, it's very interesting to see how data, or for instance, let me say that if a pharmaceutical company is looking for carrots, they are looking for particular ingredients in the carrots. It's not just wholesome carrot to eat. This may be different from a hotel chain looking for carrots.
Mhm.
So now individuals have the ability to determine how this carrot is grown to serve the particular market needs as well. And
Mhm.
so using data that we've collected on production of several crops, we are able to sort of engineer the output for these buyers. And these are all things that are determined by users on the platform. So you can think of it as you contributing your quota um, to ensuring food security in the world, which is the biggest impact we hope this platform would achieve once we reach a certain scale.
Okay. So now, beyond the meta idea of using your money to vote for what gets grown globally, there's also the practical details of how can technology kind of, for the lack of a better word, disrupt the entire value chain to the advantage of smaller players. Do you see the technology you're building right now? What direction do you think it could go? There's what it is today, but essentially, if you were to have kind of open field, what direction
Yeah.
do you think your technology platform will be going over the next 5, 10 years?
I think I like to tell people we are building the Amazon of African agriculture,
Let's
and the way
let's
this
pause there. Let's pause there and let that sink in. So essentially, we are saying that we are going to build a mega tech company
yeah.
that is trying to manage as much of the production to the table component of the entire value chain.
Exactly. So the platform is an end-to-end platform from production to getting the food, from production, logistics, quality control, to getting the right produce to the end user has all been digitized on this platform. So basically, what we've been able to do is to streamline all these processes, take out the middlemen across the various processes in the agricultural value chain, and made sure that value is transferred from one stakeholder to another seamlessly. So I think what we intend doing is to have these mega farms, or you can conceptualize them as mega farm cities in key geographies across Africa. That's providing food, or that is kind of providing the needs or the food needs of a particular geography in the world. So literally, we want to use this platform to basically feed the world in the true meaning of it as well. Yeah.
So if we were to, kind of step 10 years into the future, the technology component of this idea is to bring seamlessness into how one value chain player connects to the other, if I'm correct. Now,
Yeah.
do we see this evolving in a way that could be more empowering to all the players? How do you envision this? Because immediately you mentioned the Amazon of ag. A few kind of bad bells ding in my head. What are
Yeah.
your kind of what's your impact orientation? Because when technology meets a very critical part of human existence, which is what we eat, without checks and balances, a shit ton could go wrong. Forgive my French. So the point is, what is your impact logic in how you look at both the scale of
Yeah.
the opportunity and the range that you have to kind of hold to make sure that there's a good balance between the advancement of new technology ideas in the ag space and also the human impact perspective of all of this?
Yeah.
Well, how do you think about this?
I think first of all, what we are trying to achieve now in the very early days is transparency. And I think we want to get people questioning where their food come from. Like, first of all, that's one of the biggest things we are trying to achieve now, is when you have a plate of rice and your chicken, you need to know what has this gone through. Currently, we see farmers work a lot, and they try to ship commodities to Europe, and just a scratch on the commodity, people are throwing it away. The farmers' hard work goes down the drain. So what we are building now is to make people more ethical about their food by improving transparency across the value chain. We believe that, first of all, knowing where your food is coming from and where it's going is going to help you make the right decisions when it comes to food in the first place. I think for agriculture right now, technology has a lot of good to do to the agriculture value chain, because right now we don't know what we are eating, honestly. We don't know the amount of fertilizers that farmers are putting on our crops. We don't know the amount of pesticides that farmers are using. So what we are building right now is putting all this information or all this data on the blockchain, so that whenever anyone buys something from their supermarket, they are able to, first of all, track who the farmer is, what processes is gone through, where this commodity has been before making it down to your plate. And I think building that form of transparency now starts to hold the stakeholders accountable. Fertilizers company would have to make sure that now they provide the right fertilizers to farmers. The research institutes have to be on their toes to develop right protocols that farmers are going to use to farm these crops. So I think that for me alone is the game changer. Now, coupled with the fact that you can use other forms of exponential technologies to manage big farms. Like, currently, we are at a place where people ask about sustainability when it comes to food production, yet the human population is growing. So it's kind of like a paradox on how do you feed a growing population whilst natural resources are dwindling. And I think that's where technology comes in to improve that. At the rate at which the world is growing, I think by 2050 we would have to provide for twice the amount of people we are farming, we are providing food for right now. The only way we can do that is technology. And I think once people see how this technology is being used and opening up that transparency and getting people involved will really be a big game changer in the agricultural value chain.
Thank you. I'm glad you have this perspective to it. You obviously have grand ambition, but you also are tempering it with a bit of an impact logic that I think will make anyone hearing your ambition more comfortable. The reason I say that is that technology in the last 2 decades has tended to be a consolidating force in a way sometimes that disrupts small players. So when you talk about the scale of the ambition and the potential for technology to truly disrupt everything, between you and Peter, I want you to give me a sense of how you are going to mitigate. So let me give you a good example. Prior to Amazon or Alibaba or any of these global platforms, mom and pop shops were where the action was at, in terms of, you're going from home, you pick something up, and all of a sudden this crazy device came along, and then it decentralized power. Technology players figured that, okay, they can bypass the middleman and consolidate power in a way that they deal directly with consumers. Fast forward to 20 years, 25 years down the line, there's an uproar about the kind of the breaking down of small players in a way that gives more power to global giants and technology players who now have more data, more access to our information, and are able to push their own agenda. Now, a lot of what you say sounds like it could have that same impact. When you consolidate more data over the next 10 years, you're likely to be able to have very, very specific data of both users and then on the production sites and all of that, which can even be something that you trade in terms of how you target people and all of these things. In the way you're thinking about all of this, how are you going to find a way that you're not using technology to disrupt markets in ways that would put some communities at a disadvantage? How have you thought of balancing the impact of technology on the ag value chain and the scale of the ambition and the potential impact on the small fish?
Okay. Oh, Peter, would you want to take that?
Yes, let me start on that. So about technology, technology would always have positive effects for some people who actually make very good use of it. And also people who sit down and watch things to unfold are going to, experience the negative side of technology. And that has happened to a lot of companies. Yahoo used to be the most well talked about search engine and some past years back. And then they sat down for Google to actually overtake them. So these things happen, and that is why R&D is actually very critical when it comes to every organization, to make sure that you are actually always at the forefront when it comes to using technology to improve. Now, it's going to disrupt certain industries or certain people, but what we are trying to do is to make sure that it's affecting the masses in a positive manner. We want to, for instance, AI is still new, but there are a lot of research ongoing with AI, automation, irrigation systems, IoT. What we are trying to do is to make sure that we use all these technology for the benefit of the masses. And if certain players within the industry actually sit down to watch things unfold, it's definitely going to go against that. But at the end of it, or what we are trying to achieve is for the benefit of mankind. Try to use these emerging technologies to make sure that we are feeding the world. that is what we are trying to do at Complete Farmer, making sure that we are working together to feed the entire population of the world. So I know, there's going to be disruptions once emerging technologies are coming in, but we want to be at the forefront to make sure that we are utilizing whatever is coming into our benefit and also for the benefit of the masses.
I think to add to that, what I would want to say, when the people, the group I would so like to disrupt will be the middlemen in the value chain. So currently, I think with what we are building, those are the people that are likely to complain. I don't think farmers and smallholder farmers are going to complain, because we are making our technologies, the R&D, the protocols we develop, trying to build a manufacturer that helps the premium markets without the middlemen. And I think for me, once we disrupt that and make these stakeholders very competitive, or give them a certain competitive advantage in the market, I think I'd rather like fo- focus more on that than the people I'm disrupting in this current agricultural value chain. Just to add to what Peter said.
So to kind of get clarity on that, some bad actors need to be disrupted anyway, and
Exactly.
you believe that your platform will do exactly that. So they deserve to be disrupted. Is the point?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, fair point. So now the other part of this conversation is that there's a big part of this that will take shape regardless of governments. Things will steamroll their way. Technology has a power of just steamrolling its way to the forefront because just users decide what thrives. So essentially, on the sidelines of whether it's regulation or policy or anything, these things will still move forward. Sometimes slower if things are in its way. But how much of the technology force that we envision for agriculture is going to be kind of tampered or it's marched forward? How much of it is going to be potentially stopped by a lack of an understanding by the kind of national players as things evolve? A lot of the conversations we're having is assuming a certain environment and also assuming that a lot of the power lies with private sector players. But as a player in the game, do you see any kind of pitfalls that technology, like Oriokolo says, you cannot out-innovate your infrastructure? So are there certain key infrastructure challenges that as much as you try, the technology cannot go around it? And what has those experiences been for you in terms of public policy versus and its impact on infrastructure and private sector players trying to move big ideas forward? What are some of those? Do you have any anecdotes to that?
I think what I'll start with first of all is payments. I think for us, payments has been a big issue, but it's not peculiar to our case. I think even Uber in Ghana has that same issue where people in Ghana do not use card payments, so Uber needs to accept cash, and drivers do not pay Uber back. If I was an Uber in Ghana, I'll be feeling bad for that as well. But a lot of the infrastructure that needs to be run agricultural sector is just like having an enabling environment, having good roads, especially in linking where this food is going from to the cities. That in itself will be a major change for the agriculture industry across Africa, so to speak. But what we have done is also try to digitize some of this infrastructure for on our platform, such that we do not have to have a physical. So, for instance, one of the things we do on the Complete Farmer platform is to provide buyers the opportunity to book their own shipment and have shipping services on the platform that will ship their commodities to their warehouse. Now, if you wanted to do that on the ground, you would have to go through the red tape, the bureaucracy at the port, and that can be very inefficient. So some of these challenges we've tried our best to circumvent them, but there are some that are basically the infrastructure every city has. On some, we try to make our farms very connected to the internet, and in some of these locations, we don't have any access to the internet in the first place. So things around those major or basic amenities, making sure it reaches the last mile. Yeah, people in Accra could have access to constant electricity and be happy. But I don't think, for the sake, I think if you put agriculture aside, people in the rural areas also deserve same. And if that should be provided, agriculture will thrive, or any other farming industry in those rural areas will thrive as well. So I think we just need our policy leaders to get the basics right. They just need to get the basics right, give every the same opportunities as across the country, and agriculture will thrive, and other industries will also thrive.
Perfect. And Peter, I just out of curiosity, I want to understand building tech in ag. You know, there's almost a disconnection between those two industries, at least locally. One industry is very archaic and like, you know, stone age in how it approaches problems. And the players involved as well are not necessarily always the most abreast with technology. And then you have a group of people on the other end trying to build a user experience that is sometimes really upscale and modern, and trying to marry those two communities. How frustrating has it been for you as a technology player building something like this that is bringing two
Yeah.
opposites together?
Exactly. So that is actually one of the challenges we face. And I actually talk on the tech level when it comes to that. So for instance, you have your business model, things that you want to achieve. So you want to focus your energy on that and work on that. But then you require other services to help you, achieve whatever you want to achieve. You realize that what service you require doesn't expose the kind of data you need. So currently we are still actually struggling to get access to certain data. You'd have an organization that has collected the data, but exposing the data via API is another issue. You talk about APIs, and an entire government institution probably doesn't have API to expose certain critical data they've collected. So at the end of the day, if you require that data, you would have to be given an huge Excel sheet with this data for you to manually access these data, trying to come up with an API for this data. So that is one challenge we are facing here. There are quite a lot of services that we want to integrate into our systems, but you realize that it's a whole service on its own. There is no backdoor for you to get into that systems. There's no exposure to data. And I think it's high time we actually make some policies regarding some of these things. For instance, government institutions that have been collecting data around agriculture in the country should actually make sure that they expose these data to third parties who actually need these data for their work. But that is currently not being done. So bringing, the old school and the new school together has already been always been a challenge and something we are trying to overcome. Now, going forward, what we are trying to do is to overcome some of these things. I mentioned data. We try to collect data by ourselves. So we are starting today, getting data manually, inputting into some database, and then exposing it so that in the next future, like in the next 5 years to 10 years time, it wouldn't be the same issue for another organization that needs access to this data to implement whatever they want to implement. So, we have to establish policies around some of these things to make sure that there is a great synergy or connection between, the old school and also the use of technology for the benefit of these staff.
Perfect. And we always have to start from somewhere. So if you decide you are ground zero, then hopefully over the next few years, there will be enough there for others to build on. And kudos on that. One of my other questions is, technology tends to sometimes follow some trend lines and certain industries that it tends to focus all of its energy on. And depending on which market it is, the top talent gets to go into certain industries, right? So we can talk about tech all we want, but if we don't attract a certain level of depth in the industry, particularly in ag, then the pace will not be as fast. So take, for example, developing EV technology for mobility. The reason Tesla and the like are kind of catching up really fast and becoming mainstream players is that a lot of tech talent is consolidating, they're getting compensated properly and all of these things. So in terms of the trend lines, African ag and African tech are not necessarily in bed together right now. The one that is the kind of poster child right now is African fintech. That is attracting all the best talent, and because capital is also going to that side. In your mind, practically, as you try to truly advance kind of the pace of tech in ag, how have you thought about the opportunity of making the opportunity more sexy for tech players, number one, and two, building a pipeline of talent to actually shape the future of the industry going forward? What are your key thoughts on how to make that happen?
Okay, so I would start on this. So actually, the base of the issue is not getting talent into the ag tech industry. And when we look at landscape and when we take a look at Ghana right now, it's actually very difficult getting real talent. I will speak for, let's say, software engineer. I'm a software engineer, so I look into that particular landscape. It's very difficult to get in software engineers in Ghana here. I mean, you could get a couple of programmers, a couple of developers, but getting real talent when it comes to software development is a challenge. It's a real challenge. I think this is as a result of the education system, how the education system is, and how the industry is. There's no synergy. I mean, there's no connection between what the industry requires and what is being taught in our schools. So it always becomes a problem. And one thing we are actually trying to do to make sure that we resolve that is have programs to actually train people. We don't expect to get people who are already versed with all the technologies we use and should be able to do whatever we're doing. So currently, we actually have a couple of interns with us, and the entire ambition or aim of that is to train these interns in a couple of 1 year, so that at the end of the year, they are actually versed with whatever technology we are using. They've been brought up to speed on whatever we're doing, and then we can integrate them into our team. And one of the things we are actually doing is when you check various companies, I'm not talking about startups, when you even check about various companies in Ghana here, Complete Pharma is actually one of the companies that pays very well. That is one of the things we are doing to make sure that we attract the best talent into our organization, also train them and make sure that they can do whatever we are up to here. I mean, it's always a challenge. So that is one of the things we are trying to adopt to make sure that we are always not lacking when it comes to getting real talent to work for us.
That's
And
what
also, yeah, also to add to that, I think making agriculture look sexy it's a shared responsibility. I think what we are trying to do is to show people it's no longer hoes and cutlasses. I think we've been managing about 10,000 acres of farms, and we've never used a hoe or a cutlass. And I think the more people see the cool tech happening in ag, on Earth, we are using drones, we are using digital tools to help farmers detect which portions of the land have pest infestation. We are using satellite imagery and novel irrigation technologies on the farm. And I think there needs to be this cross-functional thinking. I myself am an engineer, I'm not a farmer. And I think once you have that cross-discipline, trying to solve a problem and showcasing that, that makes it look very sexy, so to speak. So I think those are the kind of challenges I live for. The Complete Farmer team is basically very multidisciplined. We have like business professionals, data analytic professionals, we have agronomists, and then we have the engineers coming together to solve this problem. And I think that's the narrative we need to put out there more, that agriculture is not just about the hoe and cutlass. A lot has changed in the industry that people need to see as well.
And hopefully we can also find ways, obviously we don't have that much time, but one of the bigger players to determine how fast, say, tech grows in a specific industry is who is making bets on that industry. And more so, as you guys win, it should build more, I say, interest from the kind of the capital side to kind of put this whole thing on steroids, because that's what we need. We need to put it on steroids the same way we've put like fintech on steroids and exploding it. And more so here than anywhere, because this is life and death, like what people eat and all of that. But one of the critical things I had wanted to talk about, and I'll be remiss if I didn't talk about it. We have 5 to 8 minutes, I believe. But the bigger thing I want to talk about is that all of the conversation we are having right now is primarily an Africa to the world conversation. So we are saying that we are engineering solutions to some of the hardest production questions we have here, some of the hardest logistics, value chain problems we have here. But then if we fix these things, there's an impact on the rest of the world. In your mind, how does technology position Africa for once as a major player on the global scene in a way that is not disempowering like everything else that we've engaged in a way that truly makes power, bring balance to things. So in your mind, how is this whole technology narrative able to flip some old narratives and bring some power to this side of the equator?
I think it's Wakanda forever, if I should say. Yeah, but I think when it comes to agriculture, I think because we are starting, it's a very nascent industry. It's just something that's picking up. It's been around for a long time, but it's been smallholder farming. And so, if you compare African agriculture to what's being done elsewhere, currently soils in the US are losing fertility because they've farmed and extracted the value from their lands. In Africa, you still have about 60% of the landmass arable. We should be able to feed the rest of the world. So it's a very unique opportunity. And this is where you get to then build new technologies to basically improve. Because we have nothing, we are starting from ground zero. It gives us the opportunity to now introduce new ways of doing things as well. And I think in the time we our own problem will basically set the tone for other places in trying to ensure food security across the globe. So I think that it's a very powerful message. And like you said, we want to tell our story more, share our successes more, and hopefully that should change that narrative, because most of the partnerships that we've had across the value chain are all African players. So these are people like myself, or like our age mates. Not to say that you are very old, but people like our age mates who are also like hacking away to make sure that things work in other parts of the value chain as well. And I think Complete Farmer only exists now because those players have also made it possible based on the technologies that they've been able to build as well. So I really think that narrative will be changing very soon, but we need to also share more of our success stories to accelerate the process.
Is there any points to add there? Thanks, Desmond.
Yeah. So just applying technology to certain sections of the value chain alone can actually change a lot for Africa, could change our story. Now, we all know that in Ghana here, it gets to specific periods that you can buy, let's say, a bucket of tomatoes for 5 cities. But then on specific instances too, you could buy the same, you could use 5 cities just to get, let's say, 3 tomatoes. What is happening? What could be done to make sure that doesn't happen? We keep food in our warehouses and then it loses their quality. At the end of the day, you don't gain what you're supposed to gain from the food that you produce. Just these two scenarios, if you're supposed to apply technology to make sure that we reduces the effect of, shortage and also food spoilage on these, that's going to change the entire story for Africa, because as Desmond mentioned, we have a lot of arable land here. I think that is what we have more than any other continent in the world. Now, if we are making very good use of this and applying technology, using drones, using artificial intelligence, using automated, warehousing system, it could change a lot. And I think it's going to be a great addition to our GDP, making sure that our GDP is increasing as a continent. And that alone can actually change the story for Africa.
Thanks, Peter. I totally agree. And as we round up, there are 2 things that I have taken it upon myself to do. Disclaimer. I can't end this thing without a plug for Complete Farmer and your next stage of growth. On Saturday, this weekend, there's a major product launch that will be streamed live, and we will share a link to the streaming. So anyone interested in seeing the depth of the technology that has actually been built on the front end, and also to play on the back end a bit to understand what is getting built, please join the team on Saturday. The details will be sent in the chat for you to register and join the live streaming session. And I can promise you it's going to be a dope one. Amazing music, great highlights of the journey for Complete Farmer to this point, and some big announcements about their fundraise and all of that. The second plug, which without Desmond's consent or Peter's consent, I'm going to do, is that they are closing their round. And I've been proud to be a part of this journey and see the growth and see checks signed. So that if there's anyone listening or watching who wants to make a connection for the round. The round is closing in how many weeks, Desmond? The ground is closing in 2 weeks. So it's like, going once, going twice. You've heard from this month today how big the ambition is. And there's several investors that have already seen the opportunity. Purple, Samurai, Aggressive. There are players that are seeing the future. And these players have also been historically good at making bets which companies are going to be the next big thing. I am putting my money on this company, and I hope that anyone listening that has any connections can make the right intro so this round can be closed, and so they can focus on doing the good work as much as possible. So for me, again, I didn't ask permission, but I've put it out there, and I'm hoping that people can pick it up and help close this round. Then the final thing,
Thank you very much.
the final thing I'm supposed to do is a lightning round of 1 minute. You've almost said what the big idea is, but Peter, if I were to ask you, what's your big idea to feed the world? What one thing you want to change everything? What would that be?
Okay, for me, the big dream is actually make people feel they are in their farming, but irrespective where they are. So you could be in your room, but you feel that you are in your farm and you're contributing to a worthy cause. There are a lot of technologies that we can use to achieve that. I mean, AR, VR is still developing. Artificial intelligence is still developing. So I believe we can get to that particular point in time where you sit in your room, but feel that you are working in your farm, knowing whatever is going on your farm, contributing to, food security in the world. I think we have a long way to achieve that, but with time and with hard work, we can actually reach that level.
Perfect. So let's play a game of farming in our living rooms. If you can put it on your giant LCD screen and see all of it, even better. So I like that one. I'll be happy to be part of that future. Desmond, go.
What I'll say is each person should make sure that at least once a month you grow it, you plant a crop. If everyone should be planting a crop once a month, in a year you would have 1 acre worth of mango farms, and with 1 acre worth of mango farms, you'll be providing vitamin C to 52,830 people all across the globe. So if everyone should just plant a crop in their backyard once a month, you plant a crop, that's the level of impact you are going to have to feed the world.
Hopefully, it's a luxury most people have, a backyard to plant a crop. But yeah, big idea, love it. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us, especially in the lead up to your big day on Saturday. I know it's not easy to take an hour off to have this conversation, but I also know that you value continuously engaging with users and trying to share the story of what your vision is. So I appreciate the time for joining us today, and I'm hopeful that post-Saturday, after the big launch, after the round is closed, you would have the energy to keep going forward and building this big vision. Thanks a lot, and see you on the other side.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thanks for joining us. Adios from Accra.